Most gardeners throw this fruit away without a second thought, yet it can turn an average raised bed into a living, breathing soil factory almost overnight. It's quite remarkable, really. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe to Evergreen Garden and drop a comment below telling me what you grow in your raised beds. You see, this is one of those techniques that quietly transforms your soil year after year and truly deserves to be shared. The fruit no one uses but worms absolutely love is papaya. Not the flesh you eat, mind you, but the peels, seeds and overripe fruit that usually end up in the trash or compost pile. It's fascinating how nature works, isn't it? In raised beds especially, papaya scraps act like a worm magnet. Earthworms respond to papaya faster than almost any other fruit because of its soft fibers, high moisture content, and natural enzymes that break down organic matter rapidly. It's a bit like magic for your garden. When worms show up, everything improves, from drainage to nutrient cycling to root health. Why papaya attracts worms faster than most garden scraps comes down to biology. Papaya contains papain, an enzyme that starts breaking down proteins almost immediately. In soil, this speeds up decomposition and softens organic material, making it easier for worms to feed. Unlike citrus, which is acidic and can repel worms, papaya sits in a near-neutral range once it begins breaking down. In raised beds where soil volume is limited, this really matters because you want fast nutrient turnover without stressing those beneficial organisms. How papaya changes soil structure in raised beds happens quietly, but, quite powerfully. As worms feed on decomposing papaya, they pull fragments deeper into the bed. Their movement creates channels that improve aeration and water infiltration. Their castings coat soil particles with stable organic matter that holds nutrients without locking them up. After about 4 to 6 weeks of regularly adding papaya, you'll notice your raised beds become darker, looser, and honestly just much easier to work with, even if your soil started out quite compacted or lifeless. Now, applying papaya scraps directly into your raised beds without causing pest problems really starts with a bit of preparation. Fresh papaya scraps should never ever be left exposed right on the surface. You'll want to chop the peels and any leftover flesh into pieces about the size of a coin. Nothing too fancy, just small enough to break down quickly. Dig shallow trenches, about 6 to 8 centimeters deep, either between your plants or right along the edges of the bed. Then, just bury the scraps fully and cover them with soil. It's a simple step, but it makes a world of difference. This keeps smells down, discourages flies, and directs worms straight to the food source underground where you want them working. The correct quantity matters more than most gardeners realize. For a standard raised bed measuring 1 meter by 2 meters, use no more than 1 medium papaya's worth of scraps every 2 weeks. Overloading the bed can cause anaerobic pockets and temporary nitrogen imbalance. If your bed is smaller, cut that amount in half. Consistency beats volume every time. Worm populations build gradually and reward steady feeding rather than dumping everything at once. Using papaya in worm-heavy beds during different seasons requires small adjustments. In warm weather, decomposition is fast, so reduce the quantity slightly and bury deeper to prevent overheating the soil. In cooler seasons, papaya breaks down slower, which is ideal. This is when worms rely more heavily on soft organic inputs. Bury scraps closer to plant roots but still outside the immediate root zone to avoid temporary nutrient competition. How papaya compares to banana peels and kitchen scraps is where many gardeners get it wrong. Banana peels are fibrous and take longer to break down unless chopped very finely. Papaya almost melts into the soil. Vegetable scraps often contain higher carbon and require balancing. Papaya provides moisture and readily available compounds that worms prefer when given a choice. Gardeners who switch to papaya notice worm activity within days rather than weeks. Combining papaya with other organic inputs creates even better results. Mixing papaya scraps with dry leaves, shredded cardboard or aged sawdust at a ratio of 1 part papaya to 2 parts dry material prevents soggy soil and balances carbon and nitrogen. So this combination sort of mimics the natural conditions you'd find on a forest floor, and it really supports a much wider range of beneficial microbes that work alongside worms. Now, the signs that papaya is working in your raised bed actually show up quite quickly if you know what to look for. Within about a week, the soil starts to smell earthy rather than flat. Within 2 weeks or so, you'll start to notice worm castings appearing near the buried zones. And after about a month, the plants themselves will show deeper green growth, even without any extra fertilizer being added. Root crops tend to grow straighter, leafy crops hold on to water for longer, and flowering plants produce blooms more consistently. Some common mistakes gardeners make with papaya are leaving the seeds on the surface, which can lead to unwanted seedlings, and sometimes using papaya that's mixed with chemical residues. Always remember to rinse store-bought papaya if you suspect pesticides might be present, and if seedlings appear, just pull them out and bury them back into the soil. They break down just as well as the fruit. Papaya is particularly effective in beds where you're growing heavy feeders like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, kale and squash. These plants benefit from a steady nutrient release rather than quick spikes. Worm activity fueled by papaya delivers exactly that. Over time, you'll find yourself using less compost and fewer external inputs because the bed becomes self-sustaining. If you want raised beds that improve instead of degrade year after year, stop overlooking this fruit. Papaya scraps turn worms into unpaid workers that aerate, fertilize, and protect your soil from the inside out. This is low-cost, practical gardening that works in small spaces and scales easily. If this guide helped you see your kitchen scraps differently, subscribe to Evergreen Garden for more real, proven gardening strategies. Share this with a fellow gardener and leave a comment telling me whether you've tried papaya or what organic input has worked best in your beds.